I'm Mary O'Malley, and I'm a GTD coach. And Marcella, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Marcella Goodnight. I've been working with Mary, I think, for the last 6 months, learning how to get things done. I am a senior director of sciences in the pharmaceutical industry, and I've been working in this industry for the better part of 30 years. And my role has evolved from starting out as engineering, doing project management, and now towards leading manufacturing science and technology. So there's definitely a lot that comes along with being a leader in this industry, as well as having a full-time family and a mother of 4 children, and everything else that happens in life.
So, this is a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about today, which is over our 4 months or 6 months. You said it so perfectly. We always talk about life comes at you. And in the time of doing your foundation coaching, I'll let you explain all that came at you and all the shifts and transitions that happened.
Yes, yes. So actually, in the time that we started, as you know, I was transitioning from one company to another, and it was actually learning, going from standard biologics, classical monoclonal antibodies, to learning cell therapies. So not only was it a transition in work, there was also a transition in the type of work and what I was doing. And so I had to transition jobs as well as learn a new modality. At the same time, I was working on becoming an empty nester. So my son was my last youngest child was applying for colleges, and there were a lot of college visits that we were scheduling. Also, every 2 years, my family hosts a family reunion. So in June, hosted about 50 plus people at my house for a weekend. That was great. There was also a lot of travel that was happening in this time. So a few international trips, a few within country trips, but just really a lot of life that was happening and coming at me in the last 4 to 5 months.
So, as we worked together to set up your system, I'm curious if you can share what we did that stood out to you as really helpful. What pieces of it were you able to implement? Because you set up, some people come and only want to talk about work, which is fine. But you came in just such a transition time and really wanted a full system, like a completely integrated system of work and life. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that.
First of all, what made me reach out to you is that I was working with somebody who was receiving hundreds of emails a day at work. And I asked him, I said, how do you get through all of your emails in a way that, you're prioritizing the highest, you're able to prioritize and just even digest all of that. And he told me about the GTD work and the book that he had read, and that it was very useful. And so as I was transitioning roles, my former boss had said, hey, I have this budget of training for you, and what would you like to do? And I thought, okay, I'll reach out, see what I can learn for GTD. And so I already was successful in my career, and most of my 2 of my children had already graduated from college. So I had a system to get parts and pieces of my life done. And what I was really looking for was this holistic, so if I have a personal calendar and a work calendar, I might miss something if I'm just looking at one. And I really wanted, like I said, all of the things that were happening, I didn't really want to separate work from my personal life. I did want an integrated system. So I just kind of had a one-stop shop for life and organizing my life. So what I really appreciated were a lot of the holistic, you know, there should be a catch-all. There should be a regular place where you can reflect on a weekly basis and then figure out what are the highest priorities to take the next steps on, and just kind of moving things along in a way that um, was helping me with minimal effort. And so that's the system that you were able to tailor to me. What I really liked was the initial questionnaire that you had asked me to complete. And based on that, you were able to suggest which tools and systems would work better for my personality type, as opposed to ones that didn't work. So I really was able to appreciate that. And then even though, people now will look at my system and they'll say, wow, that's just way too much organization for me. And, I think that it's not stifling. It does, if you're consistent and you do a little bit every day or a little bit every week, you can really accomplish so much. But, I was just telling you, I went to the Philippines to visit my father. And sometimes I didn't have internet, sometimes I didn't have phone. So if there are lapses, I feel like the system is something that I can let go of as life comes at me, and then just easily pick back up. And I really think that I would not have been able to successfully accomplish and track everything that happened for me this summer without the system that you helped me set up and personalized for me.
Well, thanks for that. It was so fun to work with you and show up every session and go like, what is she up to now? And and I had written down at the end of our sessions, there was a couple times where you said it started to shift. It was like I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about on this call. I've been looking forward to these calls. I'm so relieved that we did this call. And you were such a powerhouse in taking this thinking and this methodology and applying it to closing out the current role you were in. Okay, now let's look at, you set up a home office. I want to set up my home office. I'm going to clean out my garage. I want to get ready for the family reunion I'm hosting at my house. I want to help my son go off to college. I want to transition into my new role. It was so dynamic, and it was really cool to get to do that with you. And as much as as much as I wish I could claim any credit for helping you set up modalities for monoclonal antibodies, I can claim that I did help you get your inbox to zero.
Absolutely. And the training, right? I have my list of materials that I'm supposed to read or complete training. But I remember after the family reunion, I was spent. And we had a call, and I was like, what are we going to talk about? And I told you, I'm just stuck. Like, I did not want to do anything. And so you were just able to gently, okay, well, let's do this data dump. What's on your mind? It's easy to print my schedule, track what's going on, write my to-do list, add my to-do list or cross off my to-do list. But then when you have a big event that you need to prepare for and that you just kind of need to take some time off, you can take some time off And then you've kind of showed me some ways to, after you take time off, how do you get back on track? Just blank sheet of paper, what's on your mind? And the list of questions in the book is also very helpful.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, well, now I know what to do. If I can get it out onto paper or get it out onto the Word document or OneNote, whatever format is useful. And then you can start to digest it and take action and, kind of come out of that slump that I was in.
Yeah. So you're talking about capture, clarify,
Mhm.
organize, and then reflect and engage. And that's exactly it. And the calls are working calls. I wanted to ask, our coaching ended a little while ago. You've been practicing on your own now. What skills did you develop in our time when we were coaching together that you've seen now become a part of your day to day or your week to week?
So I think I've been better about journaling. So it's very easy. Like I said, I print out my schedule, and it's easy to track what I need to do that day, as well as the reflections on that day. And what that does is it helps guide me a little bit more in the future to be able to really focus on the priorities, because there's really too much going on. Oh, the other thing I forgot about, helping my son and his fiance prepare for their wedding. So they were all right. It was very busy, but with my tickler file, I've been able to keep track of all of the activities and the budget for their wedding. So I think having a place to store future activities and events and then characterize them and file them, um, being able to reflect on what has happened and help me direct where is it that I want to go next. That and just kind of keeping me on task. Right there, I don't know, maybe it's just my age, but or long COVID or something, but I hear in meetings all the time, oh, I lost my train of thought. But as I am, preparing for the next day and also keeping a list of, oh, who is it? What is it that I want to say at this meeting? Or what is it that I want to say to this person? I have a sticky that's always ready. So I'm like, oh, okay. And I was just meeting with my boss and I was going over the things off the top of my head. And then I realized, oh, my sticky had travel. And we forgot to talk about travel.
Yeah.
So I was able to bring it up and show this is what the budget was for. I have to repurpose some of the travel, and he's like, okay, as long as you have the budget for it and, we have the time to do it. He was fine with it. But at least, now I know, get approval 2 weeks in advance for this travel. So it's really being able to better keep track of all of these loose ends that are typically in my head. And now they are somewhere in a trusted system that if it's important, I know I'm going to write it down somewhere and I'll be able to track it and access it. I was trying to remember what we discussed in a meeting last week, right? Because I was thinking the definition of flexibility was one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the meeting, the stakeholders were explaining their definition of flexibility. And so as I was working on the project, I was, thinking, oh, this is what flexibility means. And I'm like, no. I know they said something different. So I just went back to my notes and I'm like, oh, that's what they meant by flexibility.
And
Right. So it's being able to deliver a better product.
Yep.
Because now I'm able to document and kind of keep track of conversations and activities in a more organized format.
Yeah. So in your new role, this kind of brings me to my next question. I know you're on the leadership team, and I'm curious how GTD has helped you be a better leader in your new position.
I think that there's a level of calmness that happens when you trust your organization system. I also have been using it to mentor others to be able to show them. Somebody was saying, work gives us these small notebooks, which are nice because you're able to hold them, but you're able to lose them pretty easily too, or they might not. You might be inconsistent with what it is that you're tracking, and so I think having a system for me. I like to print out my daily schedule, but at the same time, I have my monthly planner, and then I have a month, just so one page of the plan for the month. And then I also have one page that is largely text, a reflection of what happened that day or during the month. And then, I have a section of, like I said, stickies for people that I meet with or standing meetings that I'm able to, if something happens in one meeting, I'll be able, but it affects other things, I'll be able to readily jot it down. I do keep the company values and behaviors readily available, which came in handy in a leadership team meeting that we were at to look at strategy, to ask, well, how is this in line with our company values and behaviors? And they're like, wow, that was pretty impressive. So I think just largely in learning, right? I have a list of key trainings and readings that I need to do and when I need to do it. So who sent it to me? Sometimes you'll remember, oh, there's a document that I need to review. But I have this quick list that says this person sent me this document that I need to review by this date. And so I'm able to kind of track that down. Yes, some have some higher priorities, but if a due date is coming up, then I'll take that and prioritize it.
Yeah, you can read.
And then I'll be able to find that email pretty easily.
I'm always curious when other people show people their system, because you got a customized system for you. You talked about the assessment we gave at the beginning. So we give two. One's the Kairos, which maps your cognitive preferences, and the other is the pre-assessment, which we kind of work through as we do our coaching. Not everybody has the same Kairos. And if you're showing them GTD, they probably don't have any GTD knowledge. Have you ever had the experience of you show someone your system and they kind of gloss over and go, thank you, and like move away because it's not going to work?
Yes, but I think that, so what's helpful too is one of the things I have in my system is the GTD memo, right? So the weekly review, right? And
Yeah.
This is easy to show because I think it is fairly agnostic.
Yes.
Kairos. But I think as people are interested, so one person asked me and he was very on board with it, right? Because he too has an affinity for stickies.
Oh, I love your system.
Another person, like other people will adapt parts of it, like printing out the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So, and whatever capacity others are willing to talk to me about this, I'm happy to talk to them about it.
Just to nerd out on this stuff. That's what attracts me to it, is it's not the same.
It's so adaptable, right?
Yep.
That's what surprised me too, is how adaptable this is. The folders that I set up for the next steps are probably not the same folders that somebody else would set up.
Yes.
I travel a lot, so I have a travel folder for both business and personal, because I still have two children in college. I've got to coordinate all of their college trips home, and one's graduating. So I have a folder for both business and personal travel. And it's been very useful. My son was asking me when I was in the Philippines, he was asking me what his travel schedule was for Thanksgiving. And, instead of having to look up an email, I was just able to take a picture of where I have all of his the relevant travel information. He's like, okay.
Perfect. Yeah, that's it. That's what we set up. That's great.
I mean, I think this is different than a lot of systems that sell you maybe a generic, 12-step system. So the first thing I would say is I think the book is a very good read, right? And I think it does provide you with the basics of, capture, clarifying, executing, reflecting, right? And developing a good foundation. What I really think is key about this coaching is what we were talking about, is adapting it. There are so many ways to accomplish getting anything done. And I think having the awareness, you have so many tools in your toolbox that, when I wanted clarity on capturing, you were able to help me. And I remember you saying, if this doesn't work, let's try something else, right? Don't be discouraged. We'll just try something else. And it's true. There were some things that worked for me. There were some things that didn't work for me, and you were able to adapt it. Whereas I think if you're just reading a book or you're just watching something online without the interaction, what I liked about the coaching is you were able to meet me where I am and move me forward. Whether I was already going forward, you could accelerate me, or if I was stuck, you could unstick me. So I really enjoyed the coaching and the tailoring the system to me, because that's really what this is now. This is my system, and I get that it's not going to work for everybody, but what we have developed together has really been instrumental for me to accomplish all of these big ticket items that happened this summer.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly my pleasure, and it was such a pleasure to coach, and I enjoyed learning about you and helping you develop a system. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Mary. I've really enjoyed working with you. And maybe in 6 months, I'll check in with you and let you know how everything's going.
Well, how about this? I'll put you in my tickler and I'll check in with you in 6 months.
Sounds good.
All right. Be well, Marcella, and be in touch if you need anything in between then.
Thank you. I will. Take care, Mary.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye for now.